would remain the headquarters of resistance. Members of the delegation described the martyrs of the Syrian people and army as symbols of the dignity and pride of the Arab nation.
Allocated billions of dollars and smuggled weapons and terrorists into Syria. They are responsible for the murder crimes against the Syrian people, and they should be brought before international courts. He asserted that Washington practiced double standards, claiming to defend human rights and to confront terrorism, while actually America was involved in killing innocent people in Syria, Afghanistan, Palestine, and Pakistan. America continued to spread terrorism in the international arena. This caused people and the international community to hate America. The Iranian official pointed out that the best solution of the crisis in Syria would be through national dialogue and understanding among all parties. The best option now is that President Bashar al-Assad should stay in his post till the summer of next year. After that, there would be free elections to enable the Syrian people to determine their own future. Iran continued to support President Assad's political program to solve the crisis. Iran believes that the solution should be through national dialogue and understanding with the Syrian community to draw a hopeful and clear way to move towards the future peacefully. This would draw a positive future for Syria. Mr. Brajurdi said that some countries neighboring Syria continue to work to escalate differences and to kill innocent Syrian people. Those countries should realize that this crisis would end sooner or later. However, the memory of the Syrian people would retain the harmful and wrong practices of those countries. Iran believes that opening a new front against Syria by the U.S. along the Jordanian borders exposed the failure of America's policy during the past 2 years. The information media war on Syria would also fail. The Iranian officials strongly condemned the murder of religious clerics like the late Dr. Muhammad Saeed Ramadan al-Bouti. He expressed condolences to the family of the martyr. Mr. al-Brujurdi asserted that the security situation in Syria has improved remarkably since his last visit. He expressed hope of the success of the process of national dialogue and expressed Iran's support for Syria as a country of resistance in the front line against Zionist entity.
President Bashar al-Assad received yesterday a delegation of the national Lebanese parties and figures and asserted to them that the situation in Syria was improving thanks to the steadfastness of the Syrian people and the support of their valiant army. He also asserted that there would be no lenience with the extremist terrorists. Syria would firmly confront terrorism while the government would continue to carry out a political program to solve the crisis. He stressed the fact the richness and variety of both Syria and Lebanon consolidate their power against cultural invasion and enable them to foil the foreign plots to create a new Sykes-Picot to divide this region on sectarian and ethnic basis. The president added that events in the Arab arena required comprehensive ideas of unity. Syria and Lebanon had always played a pioneering role in creating and consolidating such ideas. This greatly contributed to the spread and strength of national Arab feelings. Today, we need to invest this role in the face against Syria and its Islamic culture. They asserted that Syria would remain the headquarters of resistance. Members of the delegation described the martyrs of the Syrian people and army as symbols of the dignity and pride of the Arab nation. They asserted their support for Syria against all plots. Minister of Information Amran Zabi stressed in an interview with the Russian Itar-TASS news agency today the Syrian government is the first to call for dialogue as a great initiative to overcome the crisis, as the political program presented by President Bashar al-Assad is a comprehensive program, but the United States, with its allies in the region, are trying to hinder the implementation of this program by al-Qaeda and Jabhat al-Nusra. Concerning the meeting of the foreign ministers of the European Union to lift the ban on oil imports from areas the armed terrorist groups sabotaged, the Minister of Information said there are countries in the European Union, particularly France and Britain, are involved in what is happening in Syria of bloodshed and arming the terrorists, and therefore we are not surprised of the European Union decisions. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov announced that Russian-American talks about Syria would be held in Brussels tomorrow. In a press conference in Moscow, he said he would meet his American counterpart, John Kerry. Mr. Lavrov also asserted that the reduction of sanctions by the European Union in order to supply the Syrian opposition with weapons was a violation of international law. He pointed out that Russia and the US were concerned in confronting terrorism in Syria. In implementation of the amnesty decree issued by President Bashar al-Assad on April 16th, a second batch including 83 detainees were released. Under the auspices of President Bashar al-Assad, on the occasion of the 67th anniversary of the French withdrawal from Syria, Prime Minister Dr. Wael al-Halaqi inaugurated the projects of the sports, cultural and social clubs of the Governorate of Damascus, which cost 440 million Syrian pounds in the area of Kafar Souseh. The Prime Minister toured the football grounds and met the players who briefed him on the stages of this project. He also toured the cultural and social departments of this project. He asserted that the government would continue to support such projects in order to enable Syrian youth to take part in all matches at the Arab and international levels. In the branch of Damascus, participants of the Revolutionary Youth Union did blood donation campaign for the thalassemia patients and the injuries of the Syrian Arab Army. The participants stressed on the need of the cooperation among the Syrian youth in order to support the Syrian Arab Army, which is fighting against terrorism. In the Tunisian capital, a huge demonstration was held in the street of Al-Habib Bourguiba in support of Syria, the last bastion of resistance. Participants asserted their rejection of the foreign intervention in Syria, and they condemned the financial and military support provided by the Gulf countries and Turkey to the armed terrorist groups in Syria. Demonstrators burned the Qatari flag, emphasizing their utter rejection of the dictates by the Qatari rulers to al-Ghannouchi government and their pressure to grant the headquarters of the Syrian embassy to the coalition of Ad-Doha. The author said the decision was learned by a small group of the Western intelligence, and it was taken during the last visit by US President Obama to Jordan. A number of citizens were wounded when terrorists fired mortar shells on al-Assad suburb in Harasta in the Damascus countryside. 5 citizens were wounded, 2 of them critically, when 2 shells fell near the Sharia school. This terrorist attack also caused material damage. Other terrorists fired mortar shells on Ash al-Warwar in Barzeh, causing heavy material damage in several houses. Another shell fell on a house near the Oven Square, and yet another near the square of Deir Mama Square, causing heavy material damage as well. In the Idlib countryside, our valiant armed forces confronted terrorist groups trying to steal into the vicinity of Abu Dhuhr airport and inflicted heavy casualties among them without any casualties in the garrison of the airport. The army also targeted terrorist groups in several areas nearby, killing and wounding many of them. Units of the Syrian army yesterday controlled the vicinity of al-Hamidi and Wadi al-Daif camps and secured the highway between Hama and Ma'arat and Nu'man. Army units restored security and stability to Sakraja in Al-Qasir countryside in Homs, inflicting heavy losses upon the terrorists. A military source said that army units killed several terrorists and destroyed their hideouts and ammunition. The source added that a number of explosive devices planted by terrorists on various roads were defused. Earlier, army units restored stability and security to the town of As-Sikmaniya in Al-Qasir countryside in Homs after a series of operations carried out against the armed terrorist groups. A military source said that scores of terrorists were eliminated during the army's operations in the town. The people of Judaydat al-Fadl in Damascus countryside returned to their homes after days of fear and horror they spent because of the sabotage and criminal acts of the armed terrorist groups which deprived them of stability and security. They praised the heroic deed of the Syrian Arab armed forces who carried out qualitative operations to restore security and stability to the village. The outcome of the operations carried out by army units resulted in eliminating a number of terrorists, including non-Syrians affiliated to al-Nusra front, and the confiscation of their weapons and medical equipment. A Jordanian security source stressed the arrest of 8 displaced Syrians on charge of inciting riots at a Zatari camp in northern Jordan after they protested the difficult conditions they are living in. The security authorities arrested 8 Syrian refugees at a Zatari camp over the acts of riot which took place last Friday, in which 10 public security and police members got injured. In another context, the website of the Jordanian As-Sawsana newspaper said the medical authorities have detected cases of AIDS among the Syrians at the Zatari camp. The Syrians who were forced out of their homes due to the acts of the terrorist groups and are staying at a Zatari camp are living difficult humanitarian conditions and being subjected to great pressures to prevent them from leaving the camp to return home. Despite these pressures and attempts which aim at politically investing the suffering of the displaced against Syria, yet thousands of those Syrians have left the camp and returned home. Finally, and as part of a Saudi interference in the Bahraini affairs, Saudi Arabia sent more tanks and weapons to its forces in Bahrain in order to support Al Khalifa in fighting demonstrators during the Formula 1 in Al-Manama. Sources said that the heavy military vehicles have transported the Saudi tanks and passed the main bridge which links both countries, whereas the Bahraini security forces, supported by the Saudi forces, attacked the pro-democracy demonstrators who were protesting against arranging the Formula 1, which led to the closure of all the roads in Al-Manama. Demonstrations increased while Al Khalifa is arranging to host the controversial sport event. With this, we end our news for today. Thank you for watching. For more details about Syria and the region and to view this bulletin again, you can always visit our website in English, syriaonline.sy. Now to latest business and market news with Nariman Qassam after a short.